are the top 10 players on the Dallas Cowboys entering the 2025 season. Welcome in to another edition of Love of the Star. The Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. And of course, you can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. Zach Wolchuk of the G-Bag Nation, your halftime post-game show host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network, along with the Super Bowl winning scout, the man of many talents, the owner, CEO, founder, the legend of Crown Global Media, the one and only Brian Broaddus. Man, we appreciate you rocking with us on Love of the Star. And Brian, yesterday I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, let me try and put together the top 10 players on the Cowboys roster. It's pretty damn hard. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Kind of a tough task. I felt like, okay, the top 3, 4, like, all right, this wasn't too bad. And then it's like, ooh, I'm fighting through a lot of guys that are coming off of injury, maybe not the best season. Should I do this based on a resume? Am I going to do this based on what I think they could do in 2025? And then it had me wondering, when we go through this exercise, are we going to feel a little bit differently about maybe how talented this roster really is?
Yeah, I was kind of feeling the same thing, Zach. I felt like the first 3 or 4 were pretty solid. And then I got to, like you were talking about, the resumes, maybe past play, injuries. And I found myself leaving out a couple of guys, but I also took the approach of, I really looked hard at the special teams stuff too. And there's going to be a couple of guys in my top 10 that, and by just the way I'm talking about it right now, I think people can guess who my 2 guys are that might be because of special teams. And do you put those guys ahead of maybe some guys that are positional players that might be injured, that are trying to work their way back or have a resume from previous times? So that part of it was difficult. So I am interested to see where your list goes. I did have some difficulty when it came down to, say, players 7, 8, 9, and 10 is where I really kind of struggled there.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if I was going to put a special teams player, but I think in the instance of one, I was like, he's just so damn good at his job. Yeah. I think he's got to be on here.
Yeah.
So I like that you did that, because I think other people would be like, dude, you're why are you putting a kicker on here? Or what are you doing? I mean, like Turpin's probably the one we're going to talk about as well. So let's go through here. Number 1,
why don't you go 10 up? Why don't you do that number? That might be the best way to do it.
At number 10, I went with Jake Ferguson.
Okay.
And this was tough because I was fighting with like some of the offensive linemen. I think Tyler Booker was a Pro Bowler as a rookie. If he had a Zach Martin like start to his career, I wouldn't be surprised. But it's also a projection. He's also never taken a snap in the NFL. So to me, I'm like, I can't put Tyler Booker up there yet. Right. I think Cooper Beebe's going to be really good. I think he's going to take another step. Still got to see it. Not going to put him there. 2 years ago, Jake Ferguson was a top 10 player at his position. And I think last year it was a down year. He had the injury week 1. He had the concussion. He never truly was able, I think, to be himself. And it's a contract year. I'm expecting him to have a big season this year. The talent's there. The player's good enough. He just edged out a couple other options to me. So I went with Ferguson at number 10.
I had Ferguson at number 8 on my board for a lot of the same reasons that you said.
Perfect. At 9, I went with Trayvon Diggs. And
let me tell you my 10 real quick, if I could. We'll just kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is where I put Turpin. And Turpin's one of the best weapons in the National Football League. And he's also becoming an offensive weapon as well, with his ability to play in the backfield and the ability he's made on the outside, the advancements he's made as a receiver. But teams that found that they kicked the ball to him, the ball was coming back towards them, whether it was a punt return, a kick return. I have him as number 10 on my list. He is one of the best weapons the Cowboys have.
I love that. And Terp was a guy that initially I wasn't even considering because I didn't know if I wanted to do special teams, but you're right. In terms of a weapon, he's going to dictate the game in that way. So I have no issue putting Terp there at 10. At 9, as I mentioned, I had Diggs. Now, this was resume because Diggs is hurt, and I don't know what kind of player he's going to be. But when he's been healthy, he's got an all-pro on his resume. His ability to take the football away, he's one of the best in all of the NFL. Since he's been into the league, he leads the league in interceptions. And the frustrating part about Diggs is you can see when he wants to be physical, he's done that. We always go back to that Cincinnati game several years ago. The problem is this is somewhat of a projection. You just know he's got the talent. Will he get back there? That's a question mark. But as of right now, mainly because of resume, I put Trayvon Diggs at number 9.
I left Diggs off my list right now. And, I think you make an interesting argument for him, but I need to once again see that player, and I kind of feel like if his health does return, he could absolutely be one of the 10 best players in this team. But right now, he's been, it's the lack of availability to me puts him outside. The players I have on this list are guys that I know that I could count on right now to play. And it's going to be, a spoiler alert here. Him and Overshone are two guys that I, would absolutely, if healthy and available, you would put on this list. But neither one of them are that, and both are outside of it for me. Brandon Aubrey was my number 9 player here, and this is where you talk about Turpin as a weapon and what he could do in the kicking game and also the offensive snaps that he gives you. Brandon Aubrey, when you get past the midfield logo, there's a chance you're going to get 3 points. Not a lot of teams in the NFL could say that. And you also have to look at his ability as a kickoff guy to put it out of the end zone, also to be able to place the ball in the corners if they want to go and try and cover a kick. His ability to onside kick, there's a lot of things that Brandon Aubrey does, and that's why he's my number 9 player on my top 10.
I put Brandon Aubrey at number 8. Brandon Butter Aubrey at 8. Everything you said, 100%. Plano Zone. We're fellow Plano Wildcats. Shout out to Bucky as well. We love you. But Brandon Aubrey, when you're talking about who's the best at their position on this roster, and I did think about that when trying to put this together, Brandon Aubrey might be the best kicker in all of the NFL right now. I believe he is. Yeah. So to me, yes, I understand some people are going to be like, we're kickers, football players.
Man, it's
Brandon Aubrey is going to be your points leader at the end of the day, and he's going to win you some games. So I got Brandon Aubrey at number 8.
Okay, this is now where Ferguson appears for me, and I agree with what you said about Ferguson.
7, I've got Osa Odighizuwa. I thought about putting Osa a little bit higher, but I do think that as of right now, my wonder was like, is he a little bit one-dimensional? How good has Osa been against the run? I think we've seen times where he can be a good player against the run. There's other times you see him kind of getting washed out of plays, and maybe it's just fatigue, right? Because he's really been your only consistent defensive tackle. But his ability to get upfield and rush the passer, I love Osa. I've seen him getting better year over year. I know we've talked about the back half of the season. Can he get worn down? I think he's been an underrated player. I was happy the Cowboys signed him back. I'm a big fan of Osa's game. So I put Osa Odighizuwa at number 7.
Yeah, he was number 6 for me. And then Deron Bland was actually number 7. And I'll talk about Bland here as we go. I think the thing with Bland coming off the injury, there was really a lot of uncertainty about him. How well would he play? We all understand his ability, the ball hawking ability, the ability to put himself in the right place to make plays. The pick sixes, they all speak for themselves. He's a willing tackler. When he gets in some man coverage situations, there's been some times where, he struggled a little bit with that. We remember the Seattle game a little and how he had some problems there. But overall, I think he's your best corner on your team right now. And I think that for a team that doesn't have that has a lot of questions in their secondary, they cannot afford Deron Bland to play at a poor level. But he is number 7 on my list.
I had Bland at 6. And the reason I gave him an edge was everything you said, but also the ability to play inside and outside, I think is super valuable. And there are not a lot of corners that can do that at a high level. And he's shown the ability to do that his rookie year, being forced into that situation for the first time in his life to be a really good nickel corner. He's a guy that's a willing tackler, which you don't have a lot of corners in the league that are willing to stick their nose into it. I love Deron Bland's game. You're absolutely right. Like that play against Jamar Chase, that's bad tape right there.
Yeah.
But more more often than not, Deron Bland's putting good film out. I love the way he plays, and I'm hoping he can get a really good season under his belt again this year, looking for a new deal.
Yeah, my number 6, as I mentioned, was Osa Digizua, and I think that Osa is, and I'm a little bit interested because Dan Quinn got some good things from him. Mike Zimmer and Jeff Sugina got some outstanding things from Osa. We finally saw a season where he was able to completely play throughout the entire season. And I think that made a big difference. I think that helped him psychologically, that he was able to. And I think it kind of put a thought in the Cowboys' mind on re-signing him. If Osa would have played well for 12 weeks and then done poorly the other 5 weeks of the season, then maybe the Cowboys are like, well, is it really worth this this amount of money for a tackle? The 3 technique is a huge part of if you go back to the Tampa scheme with Rod Marinelli, we've seen now that Matt Eberflus has adopted that as his form of attack, his scheme. So 3 technique important to Marinelli, very important to Matt Eberflus. So Osa Digizua is a guy that plays the 3 technique very well, and it's nice to see him get through the entire season and not get wore down like we've seen him in previous seasons.
All right, there's 10 through 6 of the best players in the Cowboys roster. We got the top 5 here now. You are listening to Love of the Star podcast. Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. Top 5s. All right, number 5 for me, Brian Broaddus. He has not played a single snap in a Dallas Cowboys uniform, but it's George Pickens.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely, I agree on this one. I think George Pickens is a unique in a lot of ways. And we've had this discussion about him. There seems so much positivity about George Pickens, the football player. Unfortunately, you and I did a little story the other day about the football camp stuff. I'm sure there was some kind of misunderstanding there. Hopefully that all gets taken care of on both ends. But as a football player on the field, there's no denying this guy is one of the better receivers in the National Football League. He's one of the best bad ball catchers in the league. You saw that when he was at Georgia, his ability to adjust at mid-flight, mid-stride, and to be able to track a ball, secure a ball, is becoming legendary in the league. There's a lot of people that have a ton of respect for this player. I don't think he's ever been able to show the greatness that put him in the mixes with the Lambs and the others, the Chases and a guy in Minnesota. I mean, he is one of those types of players, and I think working with Dak Prescott is going to really prove out. Top 5 right now could very well be, if we did this at the end of the year, could very well be in the top 3 when it's all said and done.
Agreed. Special talent, no question about it. Just pure football player, bad ball catcher, his ability to make plays after the catch, along the sideline, the body control. He's a special talent. He really, really is. The maturity will be a big thing with him. Can he kind of stay out of his own way? I don't think he's a bad person at all. Sounds like he is actually a pretty damn good teammate. But the talent, when we're just talking about pure football players, George Pickens is one of a kind. Number 4 for me, Brian Broaddus. I have Tyler Smith. Okay. And Tyler's a guy that I think is going to end up being in the conversation for maybe the best when it's all said and done here on this team. But he's a guy that I think can play left tackle at a high level. At left guard, he's pushing himself into one of the best, if not the best in the NFL. I'm hoping that's the conversation that we're having at the end of the season. Like, is Tyler Smith the best left guard in football? He's got that ability. He's super consistent. He's been able to clean up the penalties for the most part since he entered the NFL. The physicality he plays with, the athleticism. Big fan of Tyler Smith. And was dead balls wrong when I had some concern when the Cowboys drafted him. Like, who is this guy? He's hit the ground running ever since he played, and he's wise beyond his years. He loves the game, he understands the game, and he's going to be a leader on this football team.
Yeah, I have Tyler Smith at number 3. At number 4, I have Dak Prescott. And I feeling like that Dak Prescott, there's a lot of questions about him coming off once again a major injury. Everything that I'm hearing, and I've seen some with my own eyes, with him practicing, there was thought that maybe they're going to hold him back. They're not going to let him be in the OTAs. They're not going to let him in the mini camps. No, he practiced every day, every opportunity that he got to work with Pickens, got to work with Lamb out there, continues to do so on his own now as we're in the offseason. But yeah, I have him as the fourth best. I expect a bounce back year from him. My hope is that the offensive coordinator, the head coach, these coaches find ways, and it's not just to help him. It's a way to help the whole offense. I think Dak Prescott is talented enough to really take advantage of an aggressive play caller. I think his mindset is that an aggressive player, an aggressive quarterback. We've seen him make some throws that he probably shouldn't have made and got away with them. So depending on how aggressive that we see this Brian Schottenheimer scheme, and we don't know a lot about it. You know, I have questions about it. I'm starting not to have questions about the quarterback because I think he will be ready and accept any type of role that he needs to play for this team to win. But I have him at number 4 on my list.
I've got Dak Prescott at number 3. And I got a ton of questions as well. Dak Prescott, in my opinion, did not play well last year. Cowboys were 3-5. He didn't look good. But when he has had injuries, he has bounced back and been very, very good. And a lot of putting him ahead of Tyler was just the respect that I have for the quarterback position, how damn difficult it is to play in the NFL, and how Dak carries himself. And really, when he's played a full season, this team wins 10 games. They have a winning season. So I'm putting Dak at 3. I'm with you. I'm hopeful in a bounce back. We'll see what the heck this offense looks like.
Sure.
But if Dak's not good, and look, I know we talk about the postseason stuff, and our co-host Gavin Dawson's doing his How About Wow, and he's got stuff out now, and maybe that'll come over to G-Bag, and him and I can go at it over some of the stuff he's put up out there.
Sure.
But what I need to see from Dak is when it's 23-17, and you get the possession back at home in a wild card game against San Francisco.
Right.
That's what quarterbacks dream of. Go win the game. Go have a playoff legendary drive against a team that's been an Achilles heel of yours. He didn't do it. Following season, it's 19-13. You got another opportunity to go do it. Your defense has held San Francisco to 19 points.
Yeah.
And it just looks like they're chickens with their heads cut off out there. So it's not all on Dak. I understand it is a team sport. And we can look at how these rosters are constructed. But that's being a quarterback in the NFL. We don't look at Josh Allen and who he was missing on Buffalo's defense or on offense when his leading receivers Khalil Shakur, and why wasn't he able to win that AFC Championship game. We look at the quarterback and what he didn't do. And unfortunately, that's what we talk about with Dak, even though he's had some great moments.
That's the reality. If I could, on number 3, if I could, get Tyler Smith. And I think everything you said about, I think Tyler Smith is and I say this in a way, and we always like to throw the term out there, underrated, and I don't know. I think people know who Tyler Smith is. My hope is that more people around the league will know who Tyler Smith is and I think Dallas Cowboy fans know who Tyler Smith is. I'm trying to get to this point of people around the league need to understand that Tyler Smith is a damn good guard. And, for the fact that he played tackle, there were a lot of people that were critical of him because coming out of Tulsa, he had a ton of penalties. They were worried about is that going to be a carryover and all that? I think if the Dallas Cowboys have success offensively this year and they find a way to run the football and have success running the football consistently and are winning games that way, I think you're going to see, because there's going to be a lot of focus on the inside 3 for the Cowboys. There's going to be a lot of focus on Booker. There's going to be a lot of focus on BB. And there's going to start to be a lot of focus on Smith. Smith is one of these guys that's an athlete. He's powerful, point of attack player. He can get movement. He's good one-on-one. He's good on the combo blocks. There's a lot to really, really, really like about Tyler Smith's game. And I think you're going to see it if this offensive scheme that we're all kind of waiting to see how it plays out, if it's in fact a scheme where there are pin and pulls, there are combo blocks, there is one-on-one movement, there are reach blocks, there's scoop blocks, this is where Tyler Smith is going to shine. He's number 3 on my list of the top 10 for that reason. I think he can do everything I just said and more.
Love it. At number 2 for me, I've got 88 CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
And look, CD, what he's done the last 2 years, I mean, he's put himself in the conversation for best wide receiver in football. It's a short list. I mean, to me, it's your LSU Tigers, Jefferson and Chase, and it's CeeDee Lamb. He can play inside. He can win outside. I still think that there's untapped potential to be able to just get him the ball in space and let him go work like we saw him be so damn good at Oklahoma. And there's been times that they've been able to do that a little bit more, but him being legitimately the only weapon that they've had on offense at times, and the entire defense knows they're going to CeeDee Lamb, and he is still able to produce the big-time catches that he's able to make, playing hurt last year with that shoulder. I mean, you could see that AC joint. He is in pain. He's battling through it. I went to battle for him after some post-game shows, callers and texters. Oh, the body language. Look, CeeDee, it's the same thing with Pickens. These guys want to win. They're competitors. They care. They give a damn. You want that on your team. And CeeDee, maybe that's something he can work on. But that's a dude I want in the foxhole with me. Give me CeeDee Lamb number 2.
Actually, he's number 1 for me. I have Micah Parsons at number 2. And when I think you did an excellent job, very eloquently breaking down why CeeDee Lamb. Everything you said about CeeDee Lamb is the reason why he's number 1. Everybody in the ball yard knows that he's going to get the football. He really didn't have a whole lot of help. Even with poor or below average quarterback play at times, he finds a way to make plays. He plays hurt. He's tough. Yeah. Is he emotional? Does he wear his feelings on his sleeve? All those things are absolutely true. But this is the reason why. Teams know he is going to get the ball, and he still is a productive player. And that's why I gave him the nod over Micah Parsons and put Micah Parsons at number 2, because we've seen Micah Parsons get taken out of games. That's the reason why I feel like that when you look at Micah, and as brilliant as Micah Parsons has been throughout his career, and such a weapon and such an integral part, take him out of the defense and see what happens. Okay, we've seen it happen, but take CeeDee Lamb out of the offense and see what happens. That's something we haven't, because CeeDee Lamb will fight through. Not that Micah Parsons won't fight through injuries and being banged up, but we've seen opportunities where Micah Parsons, against some lesser offensive tackles, has disappeared a little bit. Yes, is he one of the top 2 or 3 best players for the Dallas Cowboys? You're absolutely right. Is he one of the better players in the National Football League on defense? Yes, you're absolutely right. When you start to talk about the great defensive ends, he's right up there. But I personally, everything you said about CeeDee Lamb, and I think the toughness, the competes, even when teams know that he's going to get the ball, still can't stop him, and him even playing with poor quarterbacks at times, and even Dak Prescott playing poorly at times, not, getting him the ball. That's why he's my number 1 player. Micah Parsons, my number 2 player, because I feel like that as great as Micah is, there is times where he could be taken out of a game, and sometimes by his own accord. Sometimes they're just, it just he wears down, and I never really see CD wearing down, but there's been times I've seen Micah. So he's number 2 for me. CeeDee Lamb is number 1.
It's a hell of an argument. And I actually like what you're saying there. And that's something where maybe, I would consider flipping that as well. I went Micah 1 just because of the ways that he can impact the game defensively.
Oh, he can impact a game, no question.
So rare, but you're right. When you run at Micah Parsons, and there, I mean, you look at, what was it, 2 years ago it might have been Thanksgiving against New York. And there was the reports like they wanted him to play more linebacker. He was like, okay, well then see what I do. And he kind of just didn't really, I don't know, was the effort there? I mean, that's questionable. You've never had to worry about with CD. So that is an absolutely fair argument. The way that Mike Zimmer was able to tap into some of the ways to utilize Micah Parsons, I hope Matt Eberflus does the same thing, being able to rush him, over the center, the A gap, the B gap, what he's able to do along the edge. Like Micah, to me, can be the best defensive player in all of football. I don't know that CD is going to be able to eclipse Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase for some. That was the reason initially I put Micah at 1. But gosh, you make a pretty damn good argument for why CD should be 1 over Micah, and I don't have a lot of pushback for you there, sir.
Well, like I said, I had a harder time with the bottom, like you said. You could either way. I think the one that has the best opportunity to go up the board, I think, is Pickens. Mm-hmm. And let's see about But as we look at our list, I know my list has an omission of Overshone and
Yeah, me
has
too.
an omission of Diggs. And I'm sure people will argue with it either way. I'm not making it a personal attack on Diggs. I just like to see the availability. I really, really would. And I'm sure some people say, well, he played 10 games and he got hurt. It's not his fault. He got hurt. I'm like, okay, Bland, okay, he got hurt, but he came back. I just feel like though too that I think it's unfair that to leave off like a Brandon Aubrey and leave off like a guy like Turpin. I think those guys impact the game as well for the Cowboys. Turpin, and I think we're going to start to see Turpin. I mentioned Pickens as a riser. When it's at the end of the day, we might see that Turpin maybe go from in my list from a 10, inside maybe 6, 7. Maybe he moves up 4 spots when it's all said and done.
Yeah, Overshone was one of those guys that talent wise, he
If he played,
belonged.
you were going
But
to
it's
have
just
you. Yeah,
yeah, it's the availability. He's never been able to play a full season.
yeah.
I just like at least Diggs. You've got a resume where it's like, dude, he's had an All Pro
No,
season.
that's
He's had a
fair.
Pro Bowl season.
It was. I
That was
had a
why I
hard.
kind of gave him
Yeah,
the edge over an Overshone.
yeah.
But
It's hard. It was hard to omit Diggs from this list, but I wanted to make sure that I gave Turpin and Aubrey that they're due as well.
and the one other question that I had when we put this together, how do we feel about the talent then? Like how good this team is. I mean, we're putting a place kicker
For sure.
in our top 10 of the best players on the football team. And it's no
Sure.
knock on Brandon Aubrey.
No.
But I wonder if, when we just have a focus on the Dallas Cowboys, we tend to just be narrow minded. And when you kind of just quick jog through your mind of like, okay, who are the other players on other teams? Like, I wonder if other teams' top 10s would just blow the Cowboys away. And maybe we've inflated the talent on this roster a little bit.
Well, it would be interesting to just look at the division teams. If you just said let's do just off what we know about playing against the Giants or playing against the Eagles, and then comparing how hard was it just if you did the eye test, with the Commanders, obviously with Jaden Daniels would probably be their number one player, but I mean Terry McLaurin would be in there. We'd be talking about Terry McLaurin like we talked about George Pickens, and if you looked at the Eagles, I mean, Hurts would be up there. I mean, could Hurts be higher than what Dak was? I know on my list to be in 4. Would he be top 3? I mean, they've got so many good defensive players. It might be difficult to kind of figure out how to incorporate. I mean, look at all their offensive linemen. I mean, you could
Right.
put Jordan Mailata, you could put Lane Johnson on that list. I mean, with Dallas, you're probably right now. I mean, BB is on the outside looking in, but is he a better center? I think that BB, when you start to talk about, maybe he's the second best center in the NFC East. So yeah, when you look at other teams, and then if you said, okay, now pick players 11 through 20, that's when the list would be. And I think Dallas could hold their own with 11 through 20 when it turns into guys like with BB as a possibility on there. They can have some guys emerge. They could have like Sam Williams, Tyler Booker, Sam Williams. Yeah, you could have some guys. You could have some guys emerge. I'm not saying that guys like Tolbert are going to emerge because I've been waiting for Tolbert. Seems like his whole career.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some guys that teams are going to beat you on from 11 through 20. I think but I do think Dallas has several players that are, if they have the type of season that they're capable of, and that's what we always say, but if they have the type of season, like BB could find himself in this top 10 list. But
Hope he does.
me personally, I was just trying to be fair I was trying to be fair to Turpin and what he means and Aubrey what he means
Yeah.
to this team.
I love that you did that because I wasn't sure if we'd want to do special teams, but
Yeah.
it's important, man. I mean,
Well,
they win you games.
if you didn't, you would put in Diggs would be one of the guys for me, and then the Overshone would be the
Yeah.
consideration, and BB would be another consideration for me.
You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcast. All right, let's wrap up with the Dean Julia mailbag. And any questions that we're not able to get to, we can also do just a mailbag episode coming up in the future. Of course, we're kind of in the month now until training camp.
June radio is what it's called, right?
June radio, absolutely.
June
we don't got a
radio.
lot going on, at least with the team in terms of breaking news, but it's fun to try and come up with ideas and conversations of how to discuss this football team. And you guys are always awesome when it comes with asking great questions. So we start off looking at the mailbag here. And I put this out on @ZachWolchuk if you want to give a follow on X, of course, @Brian Broaddus as well. Aaron Lale, who has the second most sacks on this team, and who do you think is going to be the leading tackler on the team?
I think second most sacks, because they're saying that Micah's going to have number one.
Unless you think somebody else will, and then Mike
No.
will.
I think that's why it's important to try and get Micah's contract done, because if you don't, you better kind of figure out a way to get about 16 and a half sacks together. I'm going to say that Dante Fowler is going to have the second most sacks. And I think Sam Williams is going to be potentially close. I think that I know we talked about this. I think you and I have talked about this. I think the Ezeraku thing could be between 6 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of feel like that Fowler's going to get that. I think he's going to get the opportunity with Micah. I could see Fowler having between 8 and 10 again. So I'm going to put him at number 2. And then like Sam Williams and Ezeraku and those guys trying to kind of figure that 6 to 8 out as well. I think if Dallas can be very efficient on offense, run the football, score, of course. I know this is all cliche to say, but they need to get their opponents to have to chase points, because if they put opponents in chase points mode, that means Cowboys chase sacks. That's passing game stuff right there. So I'll tell you this though, Dallas's passing game or pass defense, sack game might get tested anyway. If they're not good at playing pass defense, teams might not just run the ball on Dallas. They might just go ahead and throw. If Dallas proves that they can't handle coverage in the secondary and they can't get guys home, the ball's out, but still they're giving up plays in the secondary, Dallas might not have to face the run. They might not have to worry about run defense, because teams will say, well, damn, it's just as easy to pass the ball on them than it is to run the ball on them.
Sure.
We make bigger plays. If they don't figure out what's going on in that secondary, the pass rush will help, but if teams feel like that they can protect, take care of Micah, take care of the opposite end, and throw the football because you can't cover anybody on the back end, that might be a different recipe for victory for opponents that we haven't really discussed a whole hell of a lot.
No, and it means you probably have a really bad defense.
Yeah, exactly.
There. I mean,
if you get teams that say we're just not going to run the ball because you're secondary, happened in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Philadelphia had a capable pass rush, and then all of a sudden their secondary became awful. And people handled the pass rush, and they were able to throw. And Philadelphia went from a 10-1 team to a team that got bounced in the playoffs in the first round because they couldn't cover anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas could face the same issues if they don't figure out what's going on in that secondary.
I agree with you on number 2 in sacks. My gut was Fowler. If it's not Fowler, I think it'll be Ezeraku, and he's just been so damn good. They're like, this guy, he's got to be on the field. The leader in tackles, I'm going to go with Sanborn. Give me Jack Sanborn.
I was going to say, give me Jack Sanborn. I think Jack Sanborn has a real nose for the football. I think he's going to play a lot of snaps. I think Cowboy fans are really going to like Jack Sanborn.
Yeah.
When you watch the Chicago Bear tape, he's got a feel for how to get to the ball and how to finish. I think that's a guy that, at the end of the day, people are going to go back and say, "Wow, you guys talked about him in the offseason, and wow, look what type of player he is." I think people are going to like him a lot.
Okay, let's go to GT it up on the Twitters. Go Heels is what they've got written.
Oh, go Heels. All right.
Other than 11, Micah Parsons, what other current roster players should get extensions to avoid this last year of the contract? Should it be Deron Bland, Tyler Smith? Could you be looking at another player potentially that is in need of a new contract? I mean, Tyler Smith needs to get one.
I think Tyler Smith is the one that and to me, they've had some success. I know the Martin one wasn't successful because he held out for some more money.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, when they've offered offensive linemen bigger and better deals, they've kind of had a history of kind of getting that done. Terrence Steele, I remember Travis Frederick, I remember Tyron Smith. Linemen seem to be a little bit more easier to get done unless you're Trent Williams or somebody like that. But I kind of feel like that I would try and get the Tyler Smith done before getting Bland. I think Bland's looking at Diggs' contract and going, "You're kidding me that I'm not as good as that guy? You don't want to pay me as like that guy?" Okay. I think that's going to be a difficult one to get done just because they've already got a contract on the books and the player's looking at it, not in disrespect to his teammate, but like you just paid a guy that I'm better than. I'm not going to settle for that.
Yeah, and Brandon Aubrey's another one. I mean, I don't think a kicker contract's going to be very tough, but you never really know. Like, it could. I mean, we just had him as a top 10 player on the team.
Yep.
So he's going to want to go get his money.
Yeah. Anybody that's on our top 10 list probably needs to be considered for a contract quickly.
Yeah, totally with you. Okay, let's wrap up the mailbag here. Jonah Hilla, if you did a redraft, who would you take first 3 rounds, or would you keep Booker, Easy, or Ravel, or mix and match them? I mean, we just had this talk yesterday, Brian, where Simmons from Ohio State at 12. Like, if we stayed true to our boards, I would have been looking at Mike Green or Josh Simmons. Those would have been the best players on my stack. Now, the Mike Green stuff, he's got off the field problems. That's why he slid. But Simmons fills. I mean, we got questions at left tackle. We're talking about, could Awesome Richards end up winning the job over Tyler Guyton? If you drafted Simmons, that's your plug and play left tackle.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what you thought about the year that Hoffman had, they probably looked at it as, listen, we want to get better inside. You're right about Simmons. I was totally on board, and then you're starting to hear reports out of Kansas City, and there were questions about the patella and maybe some character questions about what, the type of guy he was, but good teams, put it this way, great players seem to fall to great teams. You know what I'm saying? I think that Simmons is going to be, when it's all said and done, I think he's going to be, the comparisons with Trent Williams is huge. That's a huge comparison. I mean, that's living up to a lot right there. Yeah. But I think that when Kansas City, we're going to talk about a guy that's a multiple Pro Bowl player, all pro type player, cornerstone player for the Kansas City Chiefs. This guy is such a good player. He really is. I think if I had to do something different on the second round, I would have been more serious about these running backs if I could.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been more serious. Now, depending on, you probably weren't in the best shape, but I think, to me, and I'm trying to remember, there were some that went way ahead. I mean,
they got wiped on Judkins, Travion Henderson.
Yeah, they did. But I would have looked at,
like, they could have taken Caleb Johnson. That was our running back too. We were both on the same page.
See, that's where I would have that's where I would have gone. But just that part. I love what they did with Ravel, though. I mean, if you're going to tell me
that was in the third, that was a no.
I have no problem with that. I mean, that's one of my favorite corners. So if you told me that I could have gotten Simmons, Johnson, Ravel, I would have been a happy guy.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, man, I'm just going back and looking at my player stack. You're like, Johnson, I had my 29 best player.
Yeah. Yeah,
I probably would have done that. But I love Donovan Ezeraku too. I mean, I had Ezeraku.
Oh no, Ezeraku
I'm not upset that they went that route.
Well, it just kind of then it makes you feel a little sad that and nothing nothing against in the previous drafts with Marshawn Nealon, but was that necessary considering when you and I think Marshawn Nealon is really like a left end. I don't think he's a right end. I think he's a left end. And and that's good. You need guys to be able to play the run and all that. But if you told me I could have taken a runner with that pick and then the next year I would have had a chance to get Ezeraku, I would have been like, oh, yeah, let's go. Let's do that.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody that makes this a part of your day. We love you. We love our Dallas Cowboys, and we're just trying to give you the best entertainment possible. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, man.
Awesome, man. Another great edition to Love of the Star. You've been listening to the Love of the Star podcast. Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Zach Wolchuk. Hugs and hand pounds, everybody.